Welcome to the table, folks. Glad you could join us this evening.
Happy Tuesday, y'all. We're so glad that you popped by. Genesis 16, Sarai and Hagar. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, "Behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant, it may be that I shall obtain children by her." And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abram, her husband, as a wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. And Sarai said to Abram, "May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave you my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." But Abram said to Sarai, "Behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please." Then Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" She said, "I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and submit to her." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are pregnant and shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen." So she called the name of the Lord, who spoke to her, "You are a God of seeing." For she said, "Truly, here I have seen him who looks after me." Therefore the well was called Beer-lahai-roi. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. 86 years old. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Here gets the interesting part.
Da-da-da-da.
Right? So, let me get the little bookmark thing out of the way here. So, Sarai gives her Egyptian slave, Hagar, to Abram to be a servant wife. And this was a common practice back in this time. A married woman who couldn't have children was shamed by her peers and would often give a female servant to her husband in order to produce heirs, because the children born to the servant women were considered the children of the wife. Abram and Sarai were acting in line with the custom of the day, but their actions showed a lack of faith that God would fulfill his promise. As we do many times, we take matters into our own hands.
And then blame it on our husband.
Well, and that's going to be really interesting too, because right here, she's like, "You listened to me, why did you do that?" And God kind of corrects him. And later on, God's going to tell him, "Listen to Sarai, even though this situation's happened." This whole thing is complicated and okay. So this chapter opens with a reminder of Sarai's childless status. Normally in the Bible, this would be a signal that God is about to do something to redress the situation. Truth. In this case, however, the intervention comes from Sarai herself, not God. Sarai's got the slave named Hagar. Her Egyptian status is not a random detail, but part of an ongoing motif in the narrative, contrasting the attractiveness and fertility of Egypt with the apparent fruitlessness of the Promised Land. So again, there's that lust of the eyes kind of thing happening here. Thus, Egypt provides food when there's famine in Canaan. Lot chooses the visually most attractive destination, even though it's outside the promised land, because it's like the land of Egypt. And here, Hagar, the Egyptian maidservant, is instantly fertile, while her mistress, the heir of God's promise, is barren. I hadn't connected those dot pieces yet. This motif warns the original audience against the temptation to trust in the apparent bountifulness of Egypt when they find themselves in times of difficulty. So, Sarai suggests that Abram should take Hagar as his concubine and have children. It's well attested throughout ancient Near East. It was a common practice. It was also regarded in some situations as a potential treatment for infertility, with the child born to the maidservant somehow inducing a similar effect for the wife. Well, and that's, I don't know about that, but I can think of a few families that we have known, that I've known, that couldn't have children, they adopted children, and then boom, they have children on their own. For whatever that is. So the problem here is many of the ancient Near Eastern laws concerning the practice have to do with regulating the relational problems that would predictably arise. Surprise, surprise. The maidservant is elevating herself to equality with the wife. The maidservant's being mistreated by the wife. Questions regarding the maidservant being sent away or not, and so on. Genesis 16 could serve as a sociological case study of the reason behind such laws.
I think Pastor Henry was talking about that this Sunday. You know, if it's a drama you're looking for, it's in here.
Right? Oh, that... whatever you're looking for.
It's in there.
The love story, the drama, the poetry, the history, it's all in here. But we're in a drama phase at this particular moment. So, and the other part is... somewhere I thought it said that Sarai takes Hagar and she gives him. It's like a physical thing. She doesn't just say, go do this. There was a weird connection there, and I don't see it here at the moment. Anyway, we'll go on. So, Sarai blames the Lord for her lack of conception. Her frustration is palpable. And of course, God is indeed ultimately sovereign over the opening or closing of the womb. But instead of laying out her fears and concerns before the Lord, as Abram did in chapter 15, she confronts her husband. And she commands him to go into her maidservant, Hagar, in hopes of having Hagar's children that will be reckoning as belonging to Sarah. And Abram listened to the voice of his wife and does as she asks. Listening to one's wife is not always problematic in Genesis. Later, the Lord is going to command Abram to listen to Sarah's voice and send Hagar and Ishmael away. However, Adam is earlier rebuked for listening to the voice of his wife, so the reader is forewarned that this failure of leadership and reversal of gender roles will likely not turn out well for Abram. In another echo of the fall narrative, Sarai took Hagar, and gave her to Abram. That's where it is. In this case, Sarai's plan works exactly as anticipated. Abram sleeps with Hagar, who becomes pregnant. However, having conceived, Hagar then becomes proud, and she looks down on Sarai. An outcome foreseen in the Code of Hammurabi. I haven't looked that up, so don't ask me. We'll have to deal with that one later. Her resentment of her mistress is perhaps not surprising. Sarai never speaks directly to her in this chapter. She talks to Abram, but she doesn't talk to Hagar. And both Abram and Sarai treat her more like an object than a person. And don't miss this, Hagar's not blameless her own self. Verse 4 tells us that Hagar looked with contempt on her mistress. The same word used in Genesis 12:3. While blessing is promised to those who bless Abram, but a curse is pronounced on those who despise him. Sure enough, Hagar's disdain of Sarai ends up with her wandering in the wilderness. So remember back in 15 or 14, we were talking about if you're with Abram, there's going to be blessings. And if you're not, there's going to be curses. Dun, 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 dun. And then Sarah turns around in anger against Hagar and Abram.
I need to get my noise box hooked up.
Right? That would be good. She even boldly enlists the Lord as judge between them, confident that he will support her as the wronged party. Abram, meanwhile, abdicates his responsibility as leader in the home, just as Adam had done before him. He washes his hands of the whole matter, leaving Hagar to be abused by Sarai to the point that she feels she has no choice but to run away. An extremely desperate measure for a pregnant servant girl without resources or protection of any kind. Right? Like you said, drama, oh my goodness. Why? Because we got impatient. And we thought we could do it faster than what God's plan was.
Then we did. We just didn't like the outcome. Here, Abram, have a side check.
Right? Oh, wait. No, wait. Too late.
I just can't help but laugh. This is so today's world.
I started to say, but if you can't see today in this, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Baby daddies and side chicks and oh my goodness.
So, verse 7. So verse 6, Abram says, she's yours. She's in your power. Do her as you please. And so Sarai deals with her harshly. And then the angel of the Lord, not just an angel, the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness. And he says, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? This sticks out to me like a sore thumb these days. Not like he didn't already know the whole story of what was going on, where she'd come from, and where she was going. So why do they ask? So that we will confess, that she will say, that she'll confess. I'm fleeing from my mistress. And the angel of the Lord says to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. The angel of the Lord also said to her, I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude. Remember, he tells Abram, go out and look at the stars. Can you count them? Nope, you can't. That's how many offspring you're going to have. He doesn't tell her the same thing, but yet they cannot be numbered because there's going to be so many. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are pregnant and shall bear a son, and you're going to call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. That's what the name Ishmael means. Cross that bridge in a minute. And he shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. Here comes more drama.
Well, and with this, probably a pretty good time to inject that this is the birth of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Here's where a huge division starts, right here.
Yep.
And it's so... It's families that divide. It's families that divide. So Jacob and Esau, that's going to be a thing. Abram is the father of both of these, but this is where the nation is going to divide.
See what you're saying?
Yeah.
Irene.
Well, hello, Miss Karina. Okay, so going on. Despite her own sins and the sinful mistreatment of Hagar by Abram and Sarai, the Lord has not forgotten Hagar. So she's kind of in the middle of this, and, She's not married. It was customary in that point in time for if your mistress says this is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. It's so strange and foreign to my way of thinking, but it was customary then. And the Lord hasn't forgotten her. His concern naturally extends to the poor and needy, the disadvantaged and helpless, even though there's nothing to suggest that Hagar knows the Lord or that she calls out for help to him in any way. We didn't read that. She is carrying Abram's child, and on that basis at least, receives the Lord care in the shape of an angelic messenger. Woohoo! How many times have we seen angelic messengers now? It is the angel of the Lord, and he encounters her on the way to Shur, which is itself on the road to Egypt. The deliverance from Egypt, the going back and forth to Egypt. Again, the lust of the eyes.
We ain't got since God gave a mouse.
Man. So she's beside a spring, a natural place to rest on a journey. And as with Adam and Eve, the angel of the Lord asks a question designed to elicit a confession. Hagar, where have you come from and where are you going? Since the angel addresses her by name, it's clear he already knows her story, but he induces her to admit, I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai. And the angel responds with a command and a promise. The command is that she go back to Sarai and submit to her mistreatment. It would be better for her to be in the house of blessing. She's going to be in Abram's house, even under such circumstances, than to go back to Egypt in peace and abundance. If she returns to Sarai, the Lord will bless her child on an Abrahamic scale. Remember, we talked about that. Abraham, you're with them, you're going to get blessing. If you're not, you're going to get cursed. And it's a big blessing. The Lord will ensure that her offspring will be too numerous to count. That's what he told Abram. Your offspring are going to be more than the stars in the sky. Hagar's also informed that her child will be a son, and she's commanded to call him Ishmael, which means God heard, because the Lord has heard her cry of affliction. This is the first time in the biblical text that a positive promise is made directly to a woman, while the divine instruction concerning Ishmael's name is a mark of the Lord's interest in Ishmael and his future. I thought was interesting.
That gets a little bit confusing, but that's okay.
Yeah. The Lord's care and protection for Hagar and Ishmael are all the more remarkable because these two will not ultimately be part of God's people. Like I said, the angel of the Lord appears to her, but she hasn't called out to him.
It. We've been talking about them being blessed.
Right. Because they're part of Abram's.
Well, where's the blessing? That they'll have she'll have descendants?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on what you consider blessed. I mean...
Well, the Lord's care for these outsiders is also profoundly encouraging to his own people. If the Lord takes such personal care of Hagar and Ishmael in their time of need in the wilderness, how much more will he take care of his own people when they are in distress? And that, again, is one of those mind-blowing things. God, your ways are so much higher than this 3-pound brain gets a hold of. In fact, the parallel is very apt. Hagar's cry of affliction heard by the Lord explicitly parallels Israel's cry amid the bondage of Egypt.
Got a couple of people that's joined on Facebook. Just want to say hi. I don't know who you are, but...
welcome. We're kind of reading from an expository, getting some background information here. More understanding on how deep this story goes. So the similarities between Hagar's situation and that of the Israelites only highlights the difference between the commands that the Lord gives each of them. God will say to Pharaoh, let my people go. But he says to Hagar, return to your mistress and submit to her. One must find freedom by leaving the house of bondage, while the other will find freedom only by re-entering the house of bondage. Hagar is sent back simply because there is no blessing to be found apart from Abram and his seed. Painful though the path of submission may be, there is no other way for Hagar to receive the blessing of God. However,
I find it interesting that we talk about the expository talked about that there's no evidence of a relationship there yet.
God knows her, God sees her.
Well, and she is obedient. Go back, submit. She goes back, she submits.
But again, she had that encounter. Hers doesn't say, don't be afraid. Ooh, now that I catch that.
Fear not, yeah.
There is no fear not with that, but the angel of the Lord appears to her and was like, where are you going? What are you doing?
Well, and she...
But calls her by name.
And she evidently, obviously... So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her.
Mm.
So she knows who it is.
Well, so she's in Sarai's presence.
Joseph!
Hey, Joseph! I'm so glad to see you in real time. Not see you in real time, but see you in real time. I hope things are well for you, my friend.
See you through the wire.
See you through the wire. Tens of thousands of miles away.
How cool is that?
That's so cool. I hope you are well, my friend.
Yes.
So yeah. And that's, I think it's further on here in Genesis, but the name is the God who sees her. El Roy maybe comes up here. The God who sees her, not El Roy.
Yeah, it had one that when you ran across, I'm like, I wonder if that's in our list.
Right. However, her blessing will come at a long-lasting cost for Israel.
Bir Lahai Roy?
That. Her son Ishmael will be a wild donkey of a man. So here's the angel of the Lord talking to you. Go back. Yes, you're pregnant. You're going to have lots of offspring, but this one's going to be a wild donkey of a man. Well, what are you going to do? You're just going to deal with that, but... Oh, man. Which means that is someone not bound by normal social conventions. He will live outside society in the wilderness, close to, or in hostility to, his brothers. As we might put it, Ishmael will constantly be in his brothers' faces. His hostility to Isaac will eventually cause him and Hagar to be sent away from the Abrahamic family.
I wonder if that was a breaking of the covenant that the Lord had made with Hagar.
Well, it's going to come. It's not here yet, but it's going to come. That God's going to tell Abram. Sarah's going to say, send her away. And God's going to tell Abram, pay attention to what Sarai says. And he's going to be like, but Lord, last time I got in trouble. This one is just a really, like Pastor Henry was saying, if you want drama, if you want romance, if you want history, it's here in the Bible, and we're in the middle of drama.
Big time.
Big time. Okay. Also, as an also son like Esau, Ishmael will father an also people whose existence as legitimate offspring of Abram will be part of Abraham's legacy of blessing. Remember, God tells Abram, you're going to have a whole bunch of people. And we've seen that through Isaac. Well, Ishmael's his too. And they're both going to father separate nations. Their continuing bitter opposition to Israel will confirm and display their non-elect status. They will receive a measure of common grace blessing via their relationship with Abram. but not the special grace blessing that comes only to the true heirs of Abram who share his faith. Of course, the same could be said for many of Abram's physical descendants in Israel. Y'all still with us?
No.
Kyle's looking like, what? I think his camera's froze. Okay, moving on.
He's got the picture set in front of the camera, so it looks like he's hearing it. Go ahead, Jan.
I think his camera is froze.
Yeah, I'm just, this story blows me away. And this time even more, having a little bit more understanding now.
I can't say that I got more understanding. I'm more confused than I was before.
Okay.
So we got all this drama going in, and then it appears as though God's like jumped into the middle of it. Now, listen to her. Nope, don't listen to her. Hey, go back, submit. Nope, now leave.
God's got a plan. That's what I know. God's got a plan. And if we listen and we wait and follow his plan, then we don't have the drama.
Hopefully.
That's my...
Maybe after God stepped in for Hagar, had she become faithful to him and built a relationship with him, maybe all the stuff that is going on over yonder would never have had to have happened.
But you know, that's the other part that was, God knew all of it up front. I mean, he knew.
He sees the beginning and the end.
It's true.
And that, and like you, that part blows me away because I'm like, well, if you'd have just done, nope, God had a plan to begin with.
Yep.
And when he says your son is going to be like a wild donkey,
I'd be a little offended.
Right?
It may not actually be an insult, but it sounds like an insult to me.
Right? Okay, so verse 13, she calls the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are a God of seeing. For she said, truly here I have seen him.
Somebody else clicked in.
Who looks after me. Therefore, the well...
Ryan, how are you doing? We haven't seen you for a day or seven.
Well, hi, Ryan.
Hey, how you doing?
We're good. Welcome to the table tonight.
Thank you.
So yeah, truly I have seen him who looks after me. Therefore the well was called Bir Laharoi, and it lies between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abraham called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram's 86 years old when this happens. So Hagar responds to this revelation of God with obedient faith. She identifies God as El Roi, the God of seeing. And in seeing the angel, she believes that she's actually seen the one who's been watching out for her. And so, therefore, the spring at which the encounter takes place is called Bir Laharoi.
Okay, so if she knows this name, she obviously... Now I'm not... Perhaps she was familiar with God. She knows God.
Well, or she knows of God because she lives with Abram and Sarai, who worship God on a regular basis.
Right. But she knows who...
Right.
The name.
God of seeing. Yes.
Bir Laharoi, or however that's said.
That's the place, but she calls God. She identifies God as God El Roi, the God of seeing. I've heard other people say, or the God who sees me, El Roi, in Hebrew. And she then returns home to Abram and Sarai, despite Sarai's mistreatment, and bears Abram's son, who Abram names Ishmael, just as the Lord commands. At this point, 11 years after Abram's initial call, He's 86 years old, and he will still be waiting for a child by Sarah for 13 years, which is where the following chapter is going to pick up the narrative. So Ishmael is going to be 13 by the time Isaac's born.
Right.
And so by that time, I mean, David's already been fighting bears and lions and all that kind of good
Tigers,
stuff.
oh my.
Right? So a young teenage man, hence, and I liken that to when Mom talked about you and Kenny, and you guys are 10 years apart, and how he'd pick on you because he's the older brother. How that's going to start with Ishmael and Isaac, but it's going to go off the rails pretty fast. And yeah. So this has a cool wrap-up. It says, the great heroes and heroines of the biblical story are profoundly sinful people, capable of going from the heights of faith in one chapter to the depths of unbelief in the next, as we all are.
Amen.
Abram is saved not by the strength of his faith, but by the strength and grace of the God in whom his faith rests. Like Abram, we face situations in life in which we're tempted to doubt the reality of God's promises, especially when their fulfillment is delayed. Our lack of patience, we want it now. As the proverb says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. That's Proverbs 13:12. In such situations, it's easy to persuade ourselves that God needs our help to accomplish his purposes. Yet, as Abram discovers, human wisdom rarely solves a problem and often massively increases the problem. The family of God can be a deeply dysfunctional place as people hurt and abuse one another, while all the time being convinced that they are pursuing the will of God. Abram and Sarai need to learn that when God calls us to wait, the proper response is to wait. This remains true even when the time of waiting is long. It'll help us as we wait to ponder the lesson Hagar learns while attempting to flee the messiness of her life with the family of God. She meets the living God who is looking out for her. Often we forget that God is living and active in our lives. If we do not see him at work, we assume he's not there, and so we take matters into our own hands. Ouch. Alternatively, we forget that God cares for us. When our hopes and dreams are delayed, we begin to think that God does not see what is happening or have any concern for our well-being. But our God is still El-Ha-Roi, the living one who sees and provides for us.
Joseph backed up what I was saying. That Hagar named God El-Roi, meaning the God who sees me, recognizing that he is present even in her deepest pain.
That's good, Joseph. Thank you. Absolutely. Yes. I said that wrong. Thank you. Yeah, she names him Elroy.
Yeah. Because she names, not the place is Elroy too, or the
right.
Bear Ra.
Mm-hmm.
But the Elroy is where she names him the God who sees.
The proof of this care comes in the person of Christ. In Christ, God entered this broken world and experienced firsthand what it's like to be abused by the very people who claim to be serving God. He endured great suffering, even to the point of death, at the hands of those who considered themselves to be Abraham and Sarah's heirs, so that he could provide hope for a lost and wandering world. Through Jesus' death and resurrection, those who were once outsiders to the promise, like Hagar, have now been brought near to God. The gospel has a place for the descendants of Ishmael as well as for the descendants of Abram if they come to share Abram's faith in the Lord. What is more, the gospel reminds us that God is sovereign over all sufferings, which he will use to bring glory to himself and to grow us up into the image of his Son. This hope will sustain us through the many long and dark stretches of our earthly pilgrimage to our heavenly home. my gracious.
Quite a bit of stuff there.
Quite a bit of stuff there. The Life Application Guide says, backing up a bit, that Hagar's running away from her mistress and her problem. The angel of the Lord gave her this advice: return and face Sarai, the cause of her problem, and to submit to her. Hagar needed to work on her attitude towards Sarai, no matter how justified it may have been. Running away from problems rarely solves them. It is wise to return to our problems, face them squarely, accept God's promise of help, and correct our attitudes and act as we should. I think there's so many times we just want to go on by it, leave it.
Run away from it. And it's the situation that we've seen recently that I've been saying, no, face it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be faced to get through it.
Yep.
Otherwise, when you run, you prolong. Just face it and get it behind you and make adjustments to where that's no longer a thing.
Right. Well, and as stories have revealed, the longer you run from it, the more you don't face it, the more doors get open, the more doors get left open for attacks to come against you. Or if you would just face this, God will be there. You got to trust that and go through it. The refining by fire is not fun, though.
It's just your attitude.
And that is so much of it. That rebellious nature says, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do it now. I'm right, you're wrong.
Again, Pastor Henry has preached on how we do that, and yet we should look forward to those refining moments, because we are being refined. We're being moved ahead. It should be a joy,
right,
to be in the fire.
Right.
If you look at Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, you got throw us in the fire. It's cool. Our God's got us.
Right. But they didn't create. So many times we create the mess, just like Sarai did.
They created it.
Yeah. We create the mess.
They could have submitted to the things that they were being ordered to do.
Right.
Eat the king's food and whatnot.
True.
And everything would have been just hunky-dory. They could have submitted to the world. But they refused to submit to the world and submitted to their God.
Yes.
And it put them in the fire. The story is just so... When we refuse to submit to the world, we find ourselves in the fire. We're not walking in unison with everybody else. They come against us. Not the literal fire, and really, I don't know, God was in there with them, but my mind says being in the fire was way worse than anything we go through.
Right.
But yet they were all just kind of doing their own thing in the furnace.
Dave might be jumping ahead a few chapters.
The whole thing comes together as really one simple message. When we like to complicate it with, again,
details.
We need the details. We need the head knowledge. You don't need the head knowledge. You need to know that God loves you.
No matter where you are or what you've done.
In the filth, the prodigal son says that the son was eating the pig food, living with the pigs, came home, and the father not only welcomed him home, he ran down the road and embraced him in all his filth before he cleaned him up.
Yes.
Wrapped the royal robe around him, embraced him, bring him in, get you cleaned up. We're going to kill the fat cow. We're going to throw a party.
Right.
This is a picture of our Father in us.
Oh, absolutely.
But we just we can't lose our carnal mind that, especially for me and you people, I don't know, being raised in the church, I think it'd be more difficult. But trying to come against all the knowledge we've accumulated over a few years.
Right.
Some.
Some.
And you're trying to kill that knowledge because that knowledge is a lie.
Right.
A large portion. Even the stuff that ain't a lie is a corrupted truth.
Yes.
But it's really also simple if we just don't complicate it.
Well, instead if we just
love God with all your heart, mind, and soul.